Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Very good day to you. Welcome to a very special program as we have and highlight Women's Day. And it is something that should be spoken about every day, but because of the role women played in the world society and even in our country, we've highlighted this specific day. I'm Hawa Solomon. Stay with me for the next couple of minutes as we profile Shireen, and that is Shireen Powell, who is the CEO of Project Isizwe. She has a passion for people and social justice, and as well as fueled by her belief in the power technology has to change our world and the possibility that are unlocked rather through connectedness. And we understand that Shireen is within the technology industry, and we want to find out more a bit about her and what she's been up to in profiling our very important women on this Women's Day. Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to you, Shireen. Thank you so much for joining us on this special Women's Day edition on Hilaal TV.
Hawa, I feel absolutely honored to be invited. So thank you very, very much for having me.
So Shireen Powell, tell us a bit about yourself. You are the CEO of Project Isizwe. Tell us about Project Isizwe, how it started, how long you've been doing this, and where your passion really lies.
Awesome. So I guess as most women, I wear many hats, even though I play specifically in a tech field. My favorite hat is not obviously, but is being a mother. And I think most women would attest to that. Alongside being a mother, I run an NPO called Project Isizwe. Isizwe, in South African terms, means nation. And what we do every day and what we get up to do every day is to build our nation. Project Isizwe has been around for 10 years. We're a technology partner that is deeply, deeply focused on eradicating poverty in education. And we do this by providing uncapped Wi-Fi for learners and educators at school and at home. How I don't know if you do know this, but I guess it's probably not at the top of everybody's minds. But in South Africa, 17,000 schools are not connected to the internet. Same number of schools also don't have laboratories or libraries, and it makes learning incredibly, incredibly hard. It makes life hard for an educator who's sitting in her, classroom, and the educator to learner ratio sits at, 50-1 sometimes. So all of these elements lends to a lot of our children in South Africa being offline and not able to participate in a digital world. What it has done, and we've seen, since COVID and living in a post-COVID era, is learning loss has been significant. And all of these elements aid to children dropping out of school. You would have seen a staggering stat recently released by Shamil Jusab, who wrote a beautiful white paper on the education status in South Africa, and he did that together with Professor Jonathan Jansen, and a staggering state of about 81% of 10-year-olds in our country not being able to, read for meaning. What that does and the ripple impact of that later on in learning, where children are not able to sit and do other subjects and so forth. I think is just is not holding us in good stead, and it's not going to create, a South Africa of the future. So that's predominantly why I'm fueled to do this work that we do, Hawa, of getting up and connecting internet, or rather schools to the internet, so that we've got stunning principals that also get up, to teach children in South Africa. But I just feel that if we could make their lives a little easier, I think it goes a long way.
Talk to us about the value of being a woman and what is unique about a woman, being a woman in today's era.
I think being a woman is multifaceted. I think it's complex. I think it's often unfair. And I think whether you're working in a multitude of sectors or corporate or hospitals or just in education. I think often it heals its own unfairness. I think being a woman means being able to be powerful and assertive. And yet I think you can bring kindness at the same time. It means being compassionate and vulnerable, to those we love in our lives without feeling weak for doing so. And I think often, we're very hard on ourselves as women, to show up with all of our elements of masculinity, and we forget just to be feminine. I think it means striving for our goals, even in the face of adversity that we may encounter along the way. And I think being a woman means you live longer and you get to carry a handbag.
Yeah. That's a definite plus in everybody's bags, and you can wear lipstick as well.
Exactly.
Share some of the challenges you faced in the workplace and how you've overcome that.
Geez, I think that, any kind of struggle that faces a woman is probably not just unique to me. I think women globally, face similar challenges. I work in what used to be a very male-dominated environment, and I've seen many women succeed, I think they've shown up regardless of the stereotyping. And for me, that was one of the things that I had to, in a lot of instances, overlook. The key for me was to show up authentically and learn as fast as I could. So taking the internet, into, or being part of a technical solution is often frowned upon. Yeah. I've been in many meetings where I show up and as a woman I'm on the call, and often it's just in and there's only men in the meeting, but I think you just have to show up as yourself. And I think men will be accommodating of that. I have had unfortunate situations where people think I don't know what I'm doing as it relates to IT because I am a woman. But I think authentically you means you're going to come up with these challenges and obstacles, and it's really how you show up to deal with them. So the key for me was always to show up authentically and learn as fast as I could. Sometimes I thought I had to show up, with all of my masculine energy, but I didn't need to. I look at women in the areas that I work, in that face daily challenges of raising children on their own, taking care of bills and putting food on the table, looking after their own health. In South Africa, a lot of women that live in rural communities, which is predominantly, in the areas that I work in, have poor access to resources. There's poor access to services and information. And, having to just shoulder the heavy burden of either raising children on your own, of taking care of unpaid care, domestic work, and those kind of things. It comes with its own, elements of challenges and so forth. But I do have to say, however, it's not all doom and gloom. I think women today are flourishing, and I think they're finding their voices and are brought up by strong parents, men and women alike. And in single homes, I think, as was the case of my own home, my mother was a strong woman and she was multifaceted in her approach as well. So the women today are living longer and they're more educated and they're more mobile and they're conscious and they're curious and they're learning. And so they're therefore becoming very progressive. And I've been reading a lot of literature, and progress and improvements are, can be seen across several trends. But the changes also highlight areas where more effective health and social programs for rural women, need to be included. And I think there's still a big body of work that needs to be done.
You spoke about your mom, and I want to talk about your background and who shaped Shireen, who is she today and why. So we'll chat about that just after this short break. We're quickly going to pay the bills when we come back. We speak to Shireen, and she is the CEO of Project Isizwe. More about Women's Day just after this. We're chatting to Shireen Powell, who is the CEO of Project Isizwe. and she has gained a wealth of knowledge and expertise in a diverse number of senior roles, working with brands such as Nashua Mobile, iBurst, Dimension Data, and yes, Women in Technology is the hat that she carries right now. And she's also has a natural ability to coach people to the best, to be the best version of herself, of themselves. And we hear how that shaped Shireen Powell through her background as well. Shireen, you still with us? Welcome back.
Thank you, Hawa.
So please tell us about your background. How exactly, what was the community that you grew up with? Who was your mom, and what were the strong foundations that built Shireen Powell to today?
Thank you. It's a beautiful question. It's one I often had difficulty answering as a young woman. And I think as you get older and you see that the same challenges that faced you are not unique to you, and many people go through this, so it's okay. It's okay to talk about it and bring some meaning to, you know, the path that you've walked. So thank you very much for asking that question. I was born I was born in South Africa. I grew up in a township called Newlands East, which is in KwaZulu-Natal. Learning back then was incredibly hard. And I guess it's the reason, you know, why I sit up to social justice, and specifically in looking to eradicate poverty in education. And so I think, you know, as many young women growing up, you know, in impoverished areas, learning was difficult. We had little resources. The internet wasn't around back then, but textbooks were. But I remember borrowing a textbook so that I could do my homework. I remember, you know, scarcity in growing up. But despite that, I had an incredibly strong mother who also, you know, sat up to social justice and made sure, you know, that she was able, you know, through the work that she did, predominantly in the health sector, you know, got up and showed up for many, many women. So I guess her legacy lives through me and my siblings as well. And hopefully I've passed that down to my own daughters. But if I can go back just a little to, you know, the challenges that I faced and what shaped me. And I think of my own education, you know, when textbooks were scarce and living far away from a library, and as a young girl walking around in a community was not safe. I now look at what we faced within many of the schools in South Africa today, and I see the same, you know, sets of challenges. And that is why I feel that we just have to do more. I was in a school in Mbalenhle, which is Sasolburg, about a week ago. And I was talking to a young student, and he was telling me that he leaves home at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
This is a school we're busy providing internet connectivity to. And, you know, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning means you've got unintended risk and consequences. So the challenges we faced when I went back to school, without giving my age away, still exist, you know, in our schools today. And I guess those are the elements, you know, forget about the hardships. You know, if there were hardships, that's great. I lived through them and I'm here today. And I think there's so many women out there that have been through similar challenges like I have, and they're sitting up and they are creating better communities. They're creating better families. They are creating better South African citizens. They show up for work every day. They look after their parents, and they work in their communities, and they do some of the most amazing work I've seen.
Let's talk about some of the work that you've done in the community. What is one of your proudest accomplishments that you've done in the community? Some of the work that you've done.
Thank you. It would be remiss if I didn't tell you about a wonderful, wonderful woman, and I'm going to call her by her name. Her name is Lihle. I met Lihle probably about 2 years ago in an area called Mpofu, which is just, it's a township in Howick. And we started off by just putting down a few access points. And one of the access points for internet connectivity was given to Lihle. And on asking Leafly at that point in time what she intended to do with it, she was just very clear. And she said, I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach myself how to cook. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm going to teach myself how to do slow cooking and going back to basics. And what she wanted to do with this was to eradicate problems like diabetes or unhealthy eating, because there's not, enough access to food or quality food. And today, just providing a hotspot at Leafly's home, giving her the ability to provide the homes around her connectivity, and selling internet connectivity in the form of Wi-Fi vouchers to people around her.
Wow.
Enabled her to build a thriving business. Today, she is the proud owner of a cooking business. She's written her first book.
Wow.
She cooks for her community. When we go into the areas of Mpofomeni to do technical training, she caters. She runs a catering company, for us. She does conservation work through the internet by, using the same internet to teach things on how to, use Coca-Cola 2-liter bottles to build chairs that you can sit on in the community. Awesome. When you're accessing Wi-Fi hotspots. So it's the one, there's so many stories I can tell you, Gawa, but that story it grabs at my heartstrings. It's pretty similar to the starfish, of you do this work and you hope you can touch millions and millions of people, but also sitting up to the one person's life you've touched, and to see how that has had a ripple effect, on her family to grow her own ambition as a woman in business, and then on her broader community by providing internet connectivity, looking after the internet, selling it, and, growing this culinary experience that she's, come to love. I just, when you talk about the power of technology and how it has the ability to impact people's lives, if we don't sit up to that, then I don't know what could.
What a beautiful story, and so inspirational on this Women's Day. What is your opinion on Women's Day and the practice of it, the commemoration of it, and just women in general?
I think Women's Day, I think with most things, I think it has a capitalistic element to it. But for me, I think women get up and show up every day. And I liked your opening statement that said women should be celebrated every day. There's another, piece of me that feels that we are women. And I think we've got our own place in the sun. Just like everything else, everything needs, an applaud. And maybe sometimes that applaud doesn't need to happen. I don't even know if women want to be applauded. I think it's a great initiative to put women on a podium and say, well, here's a woman and she's done great work. But I think for the most part, there are such unrecognized or unapplauded women. My mom just quietly did her job and did what she needed to do in the community. I'm grateful today. I'm being profiled on a public forum, but there's so many women, South African women, that get up, show up, do what they need to do, and I think they just get on with it.
Something that I've picked up that you were saying continuously, and often we don't realize how powerful that words are is when you get up, but you show up as well. What does that really mean?
So again, I'm going to use another word I used, which was authentic, because we all, show up. I was speaking to a young lady this week. She's a poet and a blogger, and she was talking about mental health and just how prolific, mental health has become. And I think, that's another area that is maybe not talked about a lot. As a matter of fact, that's probably incorrect. I think there's a consciousness around, mental health. I think, for a woman, and if I can, draw inference to myself, I have hats that I wear, and I've got to do whatever those duties, look like. But at 8 o'clock, I also have to show up for a team of predominantly other women. and I've got to guide them and lead them to do this work that we get up to do every day. I think I've got to show up as confident and positive, and using my role as an influencer, and showing up with leadership capabilities, so that I can inspire confidence and make sure that people are not just listening to me, but they're able to follow and say, okay, I truly believe in what she says. And I think that that's also important, the ability to influence and leave legacies for other women, coming after us.
I think lastly, Shireen, what legacy do you hope to leave behind for other women in future generation?
I think very similar to, the story with Lihle in Mpofomeni, a woman that, can look at something and say, okay, it's not perfect, but I'm just going to start. I often used to say to my own daughters, good intentions plus timing will equal to magic. Sometimes you just have to start. Sometimes you don't know where to start. Sometimes you look at a problem and you go, oh my goodness, but you're passionate about resolving that problem. There is no right way. There's just the ability to start and grow it and just watch it, organically take off and, get a set of wings and start to fly. So for me, I guess it's that legacy that often we want to do good. We want to help. We want to be relevant in our communities. We want to lead in our communities. But often it's just, how do I start? Or I don't have the money to start. I don't have the resources. I don't have a network. Yeah. But it's just about starting. Start small.
Thank you so much, Shireen. And as she said earlier, as a mom, you silently rock that cradle. Remember, that hand rules the world. A pleasure chatting to you, Shireen. All the best, and may your projects grow from strength to strength. Till we chat again, goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
That was Shireen Powell, CEO for Project Isizwe, and just another inspirational story of women around the world, and not just here in South Africa, but women that influences communities, and that's where we need to start. See what you need next door, your neighbor, within your community, and make that change. And also we start within our homes first. This has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you on this special edition Women's Day program. From myself, Hawa Solomon, wassalamu alaikum, and goodbye for now.